In the early 2000s, Vantec looked to improve cooling, airflow, and noise by completely reimagining the way that fans were designed. This is the Vantec Aeroflow, and it uses tip-driven fan technology, so it's driven from the outside of the fan, not through the center. Today we're going to take a closer look at this technology, try it out, give it a full review, and see how it fares. Welcome to Retro Bus, my name is Bill, and today we're talking coolers. You know, at that time, people talked about obviously what sort of CPU you had, what sort of video card you had, but another big point of discussion was what sort of cooler you had. This was when temperatures in CPU cores were really starting to rise. Obviously the Pentium 4 was a really big one, but you know, even the Athlon and stuff was getting pretty hot. So there was a real big focus on CPU cooling. So some of the earlier models didn't have thermal protection built in either. So if they actually overheated, boom, it just went, you lost your CPU. They learned from that and actually built thermal protection into CPUs from those days. So when it reached a certain threshold, it would just shut itself down. But there was a certain point where it didn't have thermal protection. You had to have good cooling, otherwise your computer could just go. And you know, companies were getting quite innovative. They were really trying all these different designs. There was your golden orb, there was a dragon orb. I personally had one from Thermaltake called the Volcano 7 Plus. It was just this big monster chunk of a copper heatsink, you know, heavy as uranium, but it just wasn't that good, to be honest. You know, so there was all these different innovations. They were trying different things. There was Zalman trying the quieter stuff. So it was a really interesting and creative time for CPU heatsinks. So what we're going to do is use a traditional Cooler Master heatsink that's in my Athlon XP 2500 Plus. We'll try some temperatures on that, and then we'll plug this bad boy in, see how it goes. So let's start with a closer look at this cooler, what the technology is, how it works, and then we'll go on and put it into a system and test it out. Okay, so let's take a closer look. So straight away you'll notice the fan looks quite different. Lots of blade, much smaller core. It almost looks like a aeroplane propeller. So the reason for this is the motor is not in the middle like a traditional fan. This uses magnets on the outside, which is why it's a tip-driven fan, TPD they call them. So it's driven from the outside. And the reason for that is it allows you to create bigger fan blades. So when the motor's in the middle, it takes up quite a bit of space. This way you have more fan blade, which means more airflow. So you don't have what's called a dead zone. The dead zone here is small compared to a larger motor in the center. You have a large dead zone. So that's the philosophy behind the design. They also market it that it's supposed to be quieter. So we'll see about that. Really precision engineered heatsink. Got a copper plug, giggity, for the core, and then it's just aluminium on the outside, but it is really substantial. Like, this thing is quite heavy, really solid chunks. And yeah, you can see these really nice, very well precision cut fins. Fins actually have a bit of a slope on the inside. So even though they're flat here, on the inside they actually slope this way. So as the air, so you'll see there's a lot more fin on the inside and a lot less on the outside. Now the reason for that is that, yeah, it's like a bit of a ski slope. All the fins actually slope outwards. So again, the philosophy was that it would blow the air away from the CPU and away from the motherboard rather than just blasting it straight down. Let's take a quick look inside. And here is our heatsink. So yeah, very well engineered piece of aluminium and copper. Very clean, very good example here. And yeah, so you can see the air goes down the center and then flows out the side. Looking at a couple of reviews, this did get pretty positive reviews. There was quite a fan base. Not sure how well it sold. You know, the first time I ever saw one of these was actually an online article, you know, doing a big write-off about it. It was sort of an up-and-coming thing then, and how great it was, efficient. It pushes all that air through. It doesn't use, you know, the motor in the center. It uses magnets around the outside, all that stuff. I was like really excited. I'm like, wow, this sounds awesome. So I thought, you know, I'd really actually love to buy one. But then the price came out and they're actually pretty expensive in Australia. So it was a little too rich for me. And you know, this was years ago, completely forgot about it. And then I ran across this in a Facebook Marketplace find amongst a bunch of other stuff. I've seen this before. So I was really excited to find this. I'm like, that's great. Really looking forward to giving it a go. Okay, so here is our test system. Asus A7N8X-E. Great motherboard, N-Force 2 chipset, uses a Athlon XP. I've got an Athlon XP 2500 Plus underneath this. Great little chip, very easy to overclock as well, so we might give that a crack. Give it a bit of an overclock and sort of see those temps. I also have some good case fans installed in this. So some large Arctic, not sure what these are, but they're pretty, these are pretty large fans. So I've got one here and I've got one in the entry. So sucks cold air in, exhaust hot air out. So we'll turn those on, but we'll also do a test with those off. So we just have the heatsink running by itself. See how much, case ventilation or case fans make a difference. It's going to be, I'm going to have fun trying to get this off. This is what I really hated. You'd have, like, look where the clip is. It's just right, in there, and the power supply is here. So I might have to get the power supply out to just get this. So I'm going to pull that power supply out. Just give me some access to that. And this is always nerve-wracking. You get a big screwdriver and pull it in there and try and clip it out. I have had friends that slipped, did some damage to the circuit board. So yeah, always take it slow, don't rush. There we go, that was pretty pain-free. Oh, there we are. Okay, so this one has a nice copper plate as well by the look of it. Very nice. Yeah, look, you know what? This cooler actually performed pretty good. It's still quite warm, but yeah, very good. Nice big fan. Look, this is pretty much, it's a pretty stock standard-ish one, but does the job. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what the difference is going to be between this guy and this guy. I'll get some thermal compound onto that little die. As if not scratching these with your screwdriver wasn't risky enough. You had to be really careful not to push down and crack that CPU die. It was a common thing. I had a couple of friends that did it. Not fun. Okay, so I've got the clips down on one side. They really are designed to go one way only. There we go. That was pretty pain-free, actually. I was expecting much worse. Lovely. All right, I'll get that power supply back in. Let's get this bad boy up and running. Okay, we're all plugged in and ready to roll. Have a first boot. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Very unique with that those massive fan blades. It really looks something off an aircraft, doesn't it? Yeah, but look, you can actually see through all the cool fins there and that copper plug. Yeah, let's see how we go. All right. Oh, wow, that's not good. That doesn't sound right. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, so this does not sound right at all. I'm not sure if that fan blade, it's not hitting anything because it spins freely. But it hasn't been used in a very long time as well. Let's see if it will settle in. When I first turned it on, it was really loud. Oh my god. Let's see how we go. The review might stop here. Okay, so the CPU RPM looks really low, 1222. Not sure if that is the way it's designed or if we have problems. Okay, yeah, look, this fan looks like it's buggered. It's just really not blowing any air. It's spinning. It's funny, it's like when I use my fingers, it spins very freely. But I think that magnetic drive is buggered. It's definitely not working. So if I turn it on, it really, I thought, you know what, maybe, it's just shaking or something. So I pulled it out. If I turn the system on, it will start spinning. And you can instantly hear that sound. And when I put my hand here, there's barely any airflow at all. It's just really, so the heatsink's getting really hot because it's not getting any cooling or whatsoever. When I go into the BIOS, it won't give me an RPM reading. It says 0 RPM, so, oh well, this is hardware, isn't it? It's just a real shame. I was really hoping to test this. It was such interesting technology, but I think the one I have here is definitely no good. Yeah, it's getting hot. I better turn it back off. Here it is. I've taken the cover off. I can have a look at how it was supposed to work. So yeah, look, you can see the magnetic coils, and yeah, they attract, repulse, and then they're supposed to do that in a way that starts spinning the fan. You can sort of see it sort of clicks to each magnetic state. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm really shocked that it's not working. I wonder if it's something with the circuitry or the coils or something, because it's in pretty good condition and just, like I say, spinning freely. It spins beautifully. Obviously got a really good bearing in that center. Yes, Okay, well, we go on. We improvise with what we can in this video now. We try and salvage what we can. Yeah, this fan let me down. Looking online, apparently it was a very common failure. You know, new technology, I guess. But yeah, found quite a few forum threads and a lot of people complaining about the same problem. These things just didn't have high enough RPM, didn't work at all, didn't show up in the BIOS, wouldn't show the RPM as well. This one had the same problem. It wouldn't show the RPM correctly or RPM at all. So yeah, just real issues. This is what happens when you try new things, I guess. And it was mainly this fan unit, which was made by a different company. YS Tech made this. That was their thing. But yeah, really, really common problem. And here we are, how many years later, and I'm running across it now. So yeah, a bit of an unfortunate one. I really would have loved to get this going. I think it was really interesting technology, would have been good fun, and just to see how did it perform. But yeah, the heatsink's fine. I mean, what can go wrong with this, right? It's a solid chunk. So, okay, I was so close to writing this whole video off, but look what I found. A fan that's gonna pretty much fit this heatsink perfectly. So yeah, this fan, goner. Oh, very common fault with tip-driven fans, apparently. Explains to me why they didn't sell so many of these things and you don't see many around. There you go. But what we'll do is we'll Frankenstein this. So I've got a AMD cooler, fits on there perfectly. You know, at least we'll test the heatsink, see if the heatsink was effective. There we go. Okay, jerry-rigged an AMD fan. Let's see how we go. You know, I think this heatsink is still worth testing. Okay, so here we are, take 2. I know this fan definitely works, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what results we get. There we go. This fan's actually pretty damn quiet. I'm not sure how quiet that magnetic tip was supposed to be, but this is pretty quiet anyway, so. Okay, so for our benchmark, what we're gonna do is use Asus's PC probe. So that'll give us temperatures from the CPU and also the motherboard. I've got Windows Task Manager up to show that, you know, our CPU is getting 100% utilization. What I'm running is Prime 95. So Prime 95 is a utility that tests the CPU and RAM stability. It's particularly used for overclocking to sort of see that your system is stable. Effectively what it does is it really stresses the system, and it will also raise the CPU temperatures because, you know, it cranks that usage up to 100%. Now the Athlon 2500 is actually a very easy chip to overclock. All we need to do is bump up that speed from 166 FSB to 200 and it's done. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do that and check the difference between overclocked and normal. Okay, so let's move on to the results. Now looking across the board, we can see that the Vantec Aeroflow is usually about 2 degrees cooler than the stock Cooler Master that was in there. But you know, the thing that made probably the biggest difference was actually the case fan. While the Vantec was cooler by 2 degrees, we see 47, 49, if you turn the case fans off, it made a bigger difference. You know, it gained an extra 4 degrees. So the case fans probably made a bigger difference between the actual CPU coolers themselves. When we move to the Fahrenheit chart, it becomes much more apparent. So you can see those temperatures really did jump up when you turn those case fans off. Moving on to the motherboard temperatures, this is where there was quite a big surprise here. The Vantec every time was way hotter on the motherboard than the stock cooler. So this was a real surprise to me. It was at least 4 degrees hotter every time. Sometimes, you know, when we look at the overclocked with the case fans on, it was 7 degrees hotter. So I think this is a result of the way those fins were designed. They really blew the air out to the sides. And I think the temperature probe for the motherboard is actually on the north bridge or somewhere around there. And I think it was just blowing all that hot air from that CPU straight onto the motherboard, and it really did affect it a lot, quite negatively. Now the case fans did their best to try and, you know, exhaust that hot air, but even they could only do so much. Yeah, so, you know, sometimes you have plans, sometimes these things have plans for you. So not the video I envisioned, but, you know, I think we partially got there, partially. Look, interesting outcomes. I was really interested to sort of see what the difference was going to be between the heat sinks, I guess, since the fan failed. But it was really interesting seeing the massive impact that case fans had. That really surprised me, you know. In the era when this sort of came out, case fans weren't that common. You know, some people had them, some people didn't. You know, nowadays there's case fans, or, you know, they're covered with case fans and RGBs and fans all over it. But, you know, in the early 2000s, not all cases came with fans. You know, most people fitted them afterwards themselves. So yeah, I think that was the much bigger impact. Yeah, sucking that cool air in and just exhausting that hot air out had a bigger impact than the actual heat sinks themselves. If you enjoy my content and would like to support me, you can buy me a coffee or join my Patreon, link in the description. Thank you to everybody who does, I really appreciate it. Hit me up in the comments, tell me about the heatsink and cooler that you had. I mean, I had that Volcano 7 Plus, and when I turned my computer on, it was like an aircraft was taking off. It had the loudest freaking fan, it was insane. In the end, I took it off, not because it performed so badly, but because it was just so annoyingly loud. There were such interesting times for CPU cooling. Thank you for watching, I always appreciate it, and I hope to see you in our next retro adventure. Bye bye.